Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to continue with the ZX7 restoration. We're going to get into painting the frame components and the swing arm, as well as probably things like rebuilding the forks and a few other bits and pieces along the way. As we do these videos, let me know if there's more of the process that you want to see in more detail, or stuff that you want to see in less detail, and we'll try to accommodate as best we can. I'm basically just going to try to show you what I do along the way. All I can show you is what I'm doing, and hopefully it's what you want to see. Thanks. Stay tuned. First job today is I'm going to work on this triple clamp to try to get some of this keyring rash off here. This is one of my pet peeves. I never, well, I shouldn't say never. If it's a bike that I ride, I never, ever have a key fob or key ring or whatever you want to call it on my key. I just don't, for this reason, because as you're riding the bike and you're turning and moving and bouncing around on the road, the key fob is basically swinging around and making marks and scratching and doing all kinds of stuff on the top clamp. So I'm going to try a couple of things here today to clean that up. All right, so what I'm going to actually use is a piece of this. This is like, I don't know, 3M Scotch-Brite pad. This one is Scotch-Brite. Well, this one's pretty coarse, pretty tough stuff, and then afterwards I'll go over it with this Scotch-Brite pad, which is a slightly softer grade. But along the way I'll be lubricating it with WD-40. So basically I'm just gonna take cut off a couple of smaller pieces here. So soak this with WD-40, and then I'm gonna go back and forth across this way with the same. If you look carefully, you can kind of see I'll call it the grain of the finish that's kind of already there. So what I don't want to go across that, because I'll just create a new set of scratches and it'll look like hell. So I'm basically just going to go back and forth across it this way until I can see these black marks and all these scratches go away. Coming clean. So here we go. You can see the finish starting to come back. Just a couple more spots to go over right around here. There we go. Almost as good as new. All the marks came out, which is nice. So here is the next question, or dilemma, decision, whatever you want to call it. So this is the swing arm, but basically the paint, or the finish, we'll call it. This might be clear coated from the factory, I don't know. Is what kind of paint am I going to use on the swing arm and the frame? So on the frame it looks, I mean, it's silver, I guess. You could say, well, there's not much metal flake in there, maybe it's more of a gray, but I think it's silver. There's very little shine on this. When I look at pictures online of ZX7s, there's certainly there's no real shine or clear layer on them. So I'm gonna have to try to. The paint that I wanted to use is the same paint that I used on my CBX frame, which is an Imron industrial paint. It's a single stage, but the problem, and you can actually get it in various shades of gloss. So you can get it flat, you can get it glossy, and I think there's a couple of semi-gloss grades in the middle there somewhere. The problem is I cannot get that in silver. I can only get it in a gray. So then if I have to paint it without using this Imron industrial paint, then I have to go to either a single stage Nason, which I think, I don't know if it's urethane or if it's enamel, what it is, but I think you can get that, and you can get, I have to find out if I can get a flatting agent for it, because otherwise it would be glossy. Or I have to find out whether or not I can get a flatting agent for the clear coat and just do a base clear. And I have to find a spot on the frame or the swing arm where I can get a reasonable color scan, which this should clean up. I need a patch about the size of a credit card, so if I clean up this area in here, that might work. Or on this side even. There's probably just enough there to this spot here to get a good color scan off it. The color on the frame, there's barely a spot on this frame that isn't scratched or marked in some way, shape, or form. There's blotching here, for instance, from who knows what. There's scratches everywhere. I could probably get a sample off here somewhere if I look hard enough. But again, you look at this, I would say, yeah, it's a silver, but it's certainly not a high gloss finish, that's for sure. This down tube, which I'm sure is all the same paint, is much more clearly a silver. So this seems to have been obviously less exposed to the elements from where it sits behind the fairing, and it has a little bit more of a sheen on it, a bit more of a clear coat look to it, although again it could be powder coated, but I'm not going to powder coat this. So yeah, if I can get, I might just go base clear if I can get a flatting agent for the clear coat. So I've got to talk to the body shop supply guys tomorrow when I go into town and see what they would recommend for this. So that's all the stuff that's going to get painted. Foot peg hangers, frame, the down tube, rear subframe, and the swing arm. Okay, so I think I mentioned in the opening video that one of the things I needed to do is to create some sort of template for for painting the tank, so I knew how I'd be able to mask this off. So in addition to taking measurements, from the bottom of the tank to the point of the blue teardrop at both ends, I'll have all kinds of measurements and whatnot. But what I'm going to try to do here is I'm just trying to recreate a template of kind of so if I create something here where it'll cover the blue perfectly, the idea would be that then it'll just be a lot easier to mask off the white. So that's the theory. We'll see how that works in practice. So I just taped off around the edge of the blue, and then now I'm taping on some, basically just some paper. I've got a roll of, I don't know what the heck that stuff is. Actually, I think it's a fabric for making patterns for dressmaking and all that kind of stuff. I stole it from my wife many years ago. She doesn't know it's here. So I just now that the paper's on, I'm going to cover the whole thing in tape just so it doesn't have the tendency to want to tear, and then I'll see if I can peel it off. All right, so I've covered everything in masking tape, cut out the spot for the fuel filler, and now I gotta see if I can peel that off without making a mess of it. Well, that wasn't very effective. The first edging of tape that I put on, I kind of went around the outside of the blue with this, and unfortunately the green tape doesn't stick to itself very well. It sticks okay to the paper. So this part came out all right, but it just peeled right off. So this edge piece, which was supposed to stick to that, did not. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the edge of this. I'm going to redo everything with orange tape, which is way stickier, or even white tape. So we'll see how that works. All right, well, I think that's about as close as I'm gonna get. It took 3 tries to get this to work. Ultimately, I ended up having to use the traditional old school white masking tape because every time I use the green or the orange, and the orange is professional body guy stuff, but it doesn't stick to itself very well, whereas this stuff has a much coarser texture. I think this has kind of got that release agent on the back, so once you peel it off, it doesn't stick very well. So there we go, that's what I've done, and I can just kind of lay that on there and it'll give me a much closer guideline, and then it just kind of comes off like a little cap. Non-sticky, but just basically a perfect template. I can line it up with the hole, and once I find the center and the distances for the start and the top and the bottom of the teardrop, it should give me a pretty accurate tape guide, so that I can mask off the white section. Because as I said before, the whole tank will get painted pearl white, then you mask off the white and paint the green, and then you mask off the green and the white and you paint the blue, or something to that effect anyway. So got the templates all made up, the left side, right side, that's for the green, and then the top for the blue, so they should do what I need. And I've got the rest of the tank stripped down, the gas cap is off, and all the mounting bracketry from underneath has also all been removed. So preparing the frame sections for paint, and I did pick up the paint today, but it looks like I'm going to be going with the traditional base clear. The Imron paint, as I thought, was only available in solid colors, and they did not have any flatting agent either for the single stage paints or for the clear coat. You could buy a flat clear coat, which made it completely flat, which is not what this is. So I just I got the color scan done, so it's the correct color, but it's just going to have a conventional clear coat on it, which that'll have to do. It'll be fine. And so what I've done, I've cleaned everything with degreaser. So this is what I've used here. So you recall that it was all cleaned with kerosene and brake clean first to get all the crap off. Now I've gone over this thing with a toothbrush and a rag with wax and grease remover. And I do all that before I start sanding, because what you don't want to have happen is you don't want to be grinding grease into any of the sanding scratches that you end up putting in the surface through that process, because then the paint just won't stick, or you'll have fish eyes, or who knows what will happen. So I degrease the whole, everything, inside, outside, whatnot. And now what I'm doing is I'm going over everything with Scotch-Brite, because with something like this, where there's so many contours and shapes and not that many flat surfaces, I'm going over the whole thing, everything, inside out with Scotch-Brite as stage 1. And then once I've gone over everything with Scotch-Brite, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to sand any of the areas that I'm particularly concerned about, like where there's scratches and that kind of stuff, to smooth it out before I do some sort of etch priming on there and go that route. So here's the frame. It's just started to prime. This is just some etch primer on any of the bare metal spots, and same with the swing arm. Some etching primer on there, self-etching primer. And just to show you this is the paint. I got a pint and a half. Feels almost like two pints in here. It depends on the mix ratio. Sometimes they just end up mixing you a full quart and only charging you for a pint and a half that you asked for. So I just don't want to run out while I'm doing it. So this is helpful to anybody. The frame color matched to Lexus Silver. There's the paint code and the mixing ratios. If that's helpful at all, in case anybody ends up painting a Kawasaki frame. So I think another day or two on the sanding and the priming, and then we'll be off to paint. So that just about does it, I think, for this video. Next video will be number 4, I think. And by that time, I'm hoping that you're going to see painted frame and all the swing arm components and that sort of stuff. We might get into the rebuilding the front forks, the front end of this bike, and a bunch of other stuff as well as we start to get the thing put back together. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Very much appreciate it. Please subscribe. And I'm trying to keep the next this video and a few of the next ones a little bit shorter. It seems that people like the kind of the 10 to 15 minute videos as opposed to the ones that are taking half an hour to get through. So that's what I'm going to give that a try for the next little while, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.